and you're kind of looking for your children at what the flame is, and you're kind of fanning it and seeing, well, what is this child passionate about? What are they interested in? And then kind of helping them along to see what they can do with that.
I love talking about kids. I love talking about entrepreneurship and how to raise our kids to be financially responsible. I think one of the greatest things, and I don't say this like I'm patting myself on the back, we actually did this because it was out of necessity, not because it was something that we planned, but a few years ago, just because of the financial situation that we are in. And I mean, we have to really rely on the Lord literally for every penny that comes in for our family. Our girls would want things and we would be like, well, it's just not in the budget. We just don't have money for you to, right now, as a matter of fact, right now, my girls are both working to earn money to go to camp. They're going to go to summer camp this year. And so we said, well, okay, we're happy for you to go. They're going with their American Heritage girls troop, and it's very exciting, but we just simply don't have the budget for them to go. So you girls are going to have to earn money. And so they both have come up with different ways. Brooklyn is selling art pieces and Lacey is selling Easter baskets over the next couple of weeks. And I mean, there just are different things that they do. Lacey, she's so funny. She will go to Sam's Club and she will buy a box of fundraiser chocolate bars. And she will literally walk door to door and sell a chocolate bar that she paid 80 cents for $2, because who doesn't want chocolate to show up at their front door, right? I mean, it's just a wonderful thing. It's a win-win for everybody. And people, right? And so people will usually give her like tips and stuff too. It's really funny. But anyway, we've really encouraged our girls. And the beauty of that is that it causes them to think before spending their money, because when they have to buy a pair of shoes with their own money, they can buy the $80 pair of shoes or the $30 pair of shoes. And they really think twice, but when it's mom and dad's money, they'll spend it. I mean, they don't even think about the price tag at all. So I know, Scott, that you have done the same thing with your kids. You've got 9 kids. So clearly you guys don't have, on a pastor's budget, the money to pay for every child to fulfill every desire of their heart. And so I see your kids on Facebook, and we know your family well enough to know that you have really trained them well to become entrepreneurs themselves. Mm-hmm. Talk about the importance of that, and then teaching our kids to become good stewards of what God has entrusted to them, even at the age of like 8 or 9.
So I love that this is a homeschooling podcast of talking to people who have this time with their children, and you kind of think in the public school, what kids get home, school finishes at 3, maybe they play a sport, get home 5, 6, do an hour or two homework. Your kids, you have 30 minutes with them before they go to bed or something. Yeah. Whereas homeschooling, we're with them all day, and we're not going to do 15 hours of schoolwork with them. And so what else are we going to do during that day? And sometimes people wonder, we don't want to just plug them in front of a screen or video games or movies all day. And we expect them to be productive, to be creative, to be building, to be selling, and so to thinking about business. And so, we've told our kids that from a young age, that we're going to allow them to be bored, so they find things to do. It's great for kids to hear no. I know it's harder for some parents to say no than others, but it's a really good thing for kids to be told no, and to be left to be bored, so that they are forced to find entertaining, creative things to do. I think what you and Garrett are doing is just fantastic for your girls. You said, if you want to do this, if you want to go, then you guys can work for it. And it sounds like they're doing a really great job. And I guarantee that when they go, they're going to get even more out of it. It's going to be that much more valuable because of what they put into it. And it's the difference between what you are given versus what you work for.
Right.
And so I was a school teacher, and there were students, you give them something and they don't value it as much. They might appreciate it for the moment, but when there's something that they had to work for, there's just that much more investment in it. It's that much more meaningful. One of the things we've done with our kids is when they've wanted things, there are some things we'll buy for them, but we frequently say we'll pay for half of it.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And they need to have some skin in the game. They're going to need to work for that. And we've told our kids, I mean, it's one of the things that I find very frustrating about our society, child labor laws, or the kids can't work. And I mean, I'm like, kids can be working at a very young age. And the other day we finished the business cards from my son's landscaping business.
Oh, fun.
He's got to go around passing these out, trying to get customers. The other, it's kind of surprising. I never thought about my son being into baking, but one of my sons is making cinnamon rolls. Yeah. My daughter is selling stuff. And so they're not always successful.
Mhm.
Everything doesn't go
Right.
wonderfully,
Yep.
but that's another thing that's really good is failure. We learn a lot from failure. It is great for our kids to struggle, to suffer at
Yep.
times, to fail at
Yep.
times, and it's a lot better for that to happen at a young age versus failing when they're a lot older and
Right.
there's a lot more at stake. I mean, at this time, they try a business, they learn it doesn't work, they didn't lose a whole lot, maybe just a little bit of time, but even that's worth what they learned from it. One of the reasons I think it's so important to talk about finances with our children is people get really well. If I back up a little bit, I regularly tell people that the most important resource they have associated with finances is not money, it's time. If people learn the time value of money, they recognize that regardless of how much money you have, the earlier you start investing, saving, the better. And so we open bank accounts for our
Yep.
children at super young ages. And they get, I think I actually have it here on my desk. Their statements from the bank just came in the other day, and they're excited to see their accounts
Mhm.
and see how much they grow. And then the younger kids see what the older kids have. And it's kind of like, how did they get so much money? And I said, well, Rhea's been working and Ricky's been working, and then I make them put their money in the accounts when they get it, and then they like to watch those numbers grow. Interestingly, we did something the other day. I was investing in something, and I told my kids, I said, if you want to take money out of your savings, I will record that amount, and I will invest it for you, and you'll get the same return that I get
Mm.
from it. Or I even guaranteed them, and I said guaranteed to them that they would get a certain return because I appreciated the sacrifice that they would make, that they wouldn't get this money back for like 3 or 5 years or something.
Yeah.
And so just involving your kids in these sort of financial things at a young age where they're familiar with it, so they don't start getting serious about like we open retirement accounts for my kids. Some people don't even know this. You can open a parentally guided IRA for your children at super young ages, and it took a pretty long, it was almost a day of filling out all the paperwork because there's 9 kids. I
Yeah.
don't know how many I did that day, if it was like 7, because I know the very youngest don't have IRAs, but we did open IRAs for the children, and I think they can invest like 1,000 or something. I don't know what the limit is, but it's not even so much about the
Mhm.
finances, it's about what the children are learning
Right.
and the habits that they are developing
Right.
through this, and just making them aware of this. And so they're developing an interest in saving. They're recognizing the value of money. They're
Mhm.
not being wasteful, and it's kind of tied hand in hand with that idea that we have all this time with our kids during the
Yeah.
day. And so what can we have them doing for work? And so what, and I think we have to be some of their biggest
Yeah.
encouragers. We're the ones who have to say, you got to get out there. You're going to have to go door to door. You can't get too discouraged when you don't sell
Right.
you go,
Your chocolate
as much
bars.
chocolate as you want to sell. Yeah. Don't give
See,
up.
that's a
And,
great one because then you
um,
just eat the chocolate that doesn't sell, and it's a win-win for everyone.
yeah, and I don't know if Lacey's gracious and or doesn't expect you to pay for it or something
She
like
is.
that, but yeah. So Rhea made stickers and things, I was happy to buy
Sure.
from her what I got from her. And so, but you kind of want to look at your children's interests, and all of our kids. I mean, that's one thing most parents recognize, that it's shocking. They come from the same parents, they're in the
Yep.
same family, and they're so vastly
Yes.
different regarding their interests. And so, I think it's really important as a parent. I almost think of this, I don't want to sound too like ultra spiritual, but it talks about Jesus. He doesn't extinguish that wick. He's kind
Mhm.
of looking to fan that
Yep.
flame. He keeps it going. It's smoldering, but he doesn't let it go out. And you're kind of looking for your children what the flame is, and you're kind of fanning it and seeing, well, what is this child passionate about? What are they interested in? And then kind of helping them along to see what they can do with that. So Johnny, he's always been really interested in animals. And so a few years ago, I'm not joking, his job around the neighborhood was walking people's animals or dogs for them.
Yeah.
And there were people that were interested in having Johnny go and walk their dogs. And you said earlier something about, I think you said tips.
Uh-huh. Yep.
um, I think because adults
Mhm.
look so positively
Yep.
on young people working and being responsible, that even though they're supposed to pay 10 or 15 bucks, they're given 20 or
Yes.
30 bucks. I mean, it's been astonishing, some of the
Yes.
tips that my kids have have gotten.
Yeah. You
So
wanna hear the funniest story of
sure.
Lacey's little entrepreneurship, abilities? So a few years ago, it was when we were still in Georgia, there was a neighborhood yard sale. You're going to crack up at this. She didn't have anything to sell because we didn't really have anything. But again, this was before summer. She was raising money for something. I can't remember. It wasn't summer camp because she wasn't going to camp, but to do something. And so she set up a table. She put her hair in pigtails and looked like the cutest little girl. And this was maybe 2 or 3 years ago. So she was probably like 8 or 9. She put her hair in pigtails, looked like a cute little girl, put on like her cutest outfit. And she sat at this table and she sold compliments to people.
Oh,
I'm not joking. People paid her to give them compliments, and she took it seriously. And she's I mean, you've met Lacey. She's super cute. And so someone would come up, and it was all by donation. And so they would pay her, and she would look at them, and she would just look up and down. She'd be like, I like your hair.
I really like this.
And they would pay her for it. It was so funny. And I don't know how much money she made that day, but she probably made like $30 selling compliments. She was like, yeah, only Lacey could do that.
We used to live across from this high school, and the kids would come out at lunch, and my kids had spent all morning making these cookies that they were going to sell to the high schoolers when they came out for lunch. And all the high schoolers came out, and I'm not joking, they didn't sell one single cookie.
Oh, no.
And it was like ultra sad. My kids were so disappointed in everything. And I was watching through the window. I was waiting for the students to come over and across the street and buy the cookies. And it was obvious that the students just didn't know they were there.
Yeah.
And so my kids were really discouraged. And so I called the principal. He was a pretty neat guy. He's a Christian, and his name's John Schaup. And I said, hey, Mr. Schaup, this is Pastor Scott. We had a pretty good relationship because the church is right across from the school. And I said, my kids were, I don't know what you would be able to do here to possibly, I'm not expecting a whole lot, but they were sitting out front at their little table with all their cookies, and they didn't sell anything. And he's like, oh, I'm going to, I don't know if he made a school-wide announcement or something the next day, but in like 5 minutes, the kids sold out all of their cookies the next day. Yeah. And so, I mean, I actually had, I don't remember how much it was, how many hundreds of dollars it was, but I had to go to my kids and I had to take the money just because I thought I can't let them be running around here with like hundreds of dollars. They're like 7 and 6 years old or something. But I guess my whole point is sometimes you're just kind of watching what they're doing and trying to support from the background and help them along here and praise the work that they're doing, give them, the encouragement that they need. And my son Ricky had bought this wagon that he was pulling around his lawnmower and weed eater on his bike. And of course, what he wants is to be 16 and have his car and the trailer behind it. And he actually bought this wagon and then kind of somehow attached it to his bike and would drive around. Well, you're only going to probably have to drive through town one time. Right. The number of people that are going to see you and just be impressed with the maturity of a young man trying to do business, that's like the best advertising is just seeing young people trying to do things. A lot of adults want to come alongside and support that. Yeah, so
it's a great thing. So parents, encourage your kids to become entrepreneurs, to work hard for what they have and teach them how to be good stewards of it. Homeschool Insights is sponsored by CTC Math. If you're looking for a great online math program, visit ctcmath.com and try it for free. For more great homeschool inspiration and resources, listen to the Schoolhouse Rocked podcast every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday.